So I was asked to talk about farm ops management, which when I first saw this, I was basically straight up, oh, great, it's this open-ended topic. It's like asking someone to describe their life in 10 minutes. So for me, thinking about this problem always boils down to what to manage. You're managing something. You've got a variety of inputs, outputs, fields, storage units. I'm like, where are my inputs stored? Where are my outputs going? Where's everything? My personnel. I'm like, most growers generally have a constant set of staff, but then they surge up for the seasonal requirements. Finance. This is more like the CEO position at a company grower. And what they really care about at the high level, we're talking at like 45,000 feet looking down, is like, what is my operation up to? And what do I expect of them? Planning, I'm like, this is immediacy, near term, long term. Execution. So farm ops really encompasses a lot more than just one facet. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to plant the seed. I'm going to go nurture the field, help the plant grow healthy, harvest. It's much more than that. There's so much more parameters, variables involved into what goes into a farm. If we continue that thought process, where are these operations? As some of my prior speakers mentioned, the introduction of GIS helped address a lot of these problems, or introduced a new set of problems in some ways. Where are these activities to be done? Larger the grower, you're across county lines, you're across state lines, you have to coordinate all your personnel and be efficient about it. So I chose naively a nice simple one. Local conditions. I'm like, can I send my personnel out? I'm like, should we go out? So those are the kinds of questions we were all trained. I'm like, they want to know. I'm like, hey, at 5 in the morning, gonna look outside and be like, okay, you can't go out, guys, it's about to pour. Or is it, okay, we gotta be, it should be a good day, so we're gonna squeeze in as much work because the storm is coming. And fleet movements. I'm like, where is my fleet? I'm like, especially the larger the op, across state lines and such, you're trying to figure out, okay, I got to do it as one pass every time, no matter what the state of that field is. So you need to be able to figure out ways to track all this. But now that we have an idea of where, when should I do this stuff? Long-term planning. This always, to me, it boils down to the CEO. CEO is really trying to think about, okay, how do I grow my business? How do I cut my costs? How do I make my personnel more efficient? What is the general plan? What is needed to execute the general plan? Questions like, how many bags of seed do I need? How many inputs do I need? I'm like, what kind of fertilizer should I buy? Are there any issues with that? Those knock-on questions. So yeah, planning. Question mark at high level. I'm like, this is like right now, actually, for most growers in the Midwest, they're thinking about what the heck are they going to do this season. Near-term planning. I always think of this in terms of the operations manager. I'm like, this individual is really the one coordinating the equipment for the day, saying, I need to make sure I keep Bob busy. Make sure that equipment is running so I can maximize however much it costs me. So his answers are, can I send people out to that field today, tomorrow, the next day? So you can be like, okay, the soil's too wet, the tractor's going to sink in, so I won't do that. Who is available for work? Maybe Bob's on holiday. So you got Dave. And that's the question marks of trying to figure out what kind of scheduling can be done in an ecosystem. I'm like, what is the most efficient? Obviously, you start simple and build your way out. Who did what? I'm like, a lot of the stuff I mentioned prior is about planning to do the work, getting things ready, but then at some point you need to know, did anyone do the work? What did the operator do? Where did the operator go to the right field, wrong field? It does happen. Equipment, 2 words, machine data, John Deere. Reconciliation, this is more like from a bookkeeper's perspective. It really boils down to, hey, does everything match out? Did that truckload that came off that field from that grain cart really end up at Cargill? Well, gotta go find out. So there's notions of how do you do reconciliation? I'm like, there's problems with that. Analysis. What was the completion rate for the day? Like, how much product did we harvest? It's basically what's the yield coming off this field. All things that matter, especially when you take into account crop insurance, and you're trying to divvy up, okay, I have a landowner for these fields, so they get X amount due to my contracts with them. So therefore, you have to build out tool chains so that they can at least intelligibly make decisions quickly and rapidly. And always my favorite is why. Why'd you do this? Why are we going to do this? Planning for the next season. I'm like, what is your strategy? What are the restrictions based on local contexts? Can I irrigate this field? I'm like, is it a no-till field? Is it an organic field? Maybe part of it is that you have a new customer, such as Chipotle, and they're much more interested in your organic practices. Analytics, benchmarking. I'm like, was there some analytics done from data science or other researchers saying, hey, you should do it this way. This works better. How much are you saving? So things like this is benchmarking constructs where you can compare yourself to the other growers. And I'm like, obviously you don't know exactly what that grower is doing, but you know as a whole, are you in the average or better than the average? Harvest predictions. I'm like, it might guide how you think about your operations. And then budgeting. I'm like, everything ends up being about money. So therefore, it's how much is the land costing me? How much are my inputs? Is my supplier ripping me off? Or how are my contracts going? Should I sell this grain today or tomorrow? Or should I hedge my bets? Oh, that's even better. But basically, fundamentally, farm operations management is an integration problem. You have so many competing sources of data coming at you as a grower that you have to be able to say, okay, take a step back. What do I need to pay attention to? Trying to figure that part out is the hardest part about ops management. Okay, I just need to know what I need to know for this moment in time, rather than every other possible thing and every competing interest trying to get your attention. Cool, thanks.